This story, it just really disturbs me. It was posted yesterday on freethoughtproject.com, but the actual incident the article is about happened in 2006. I mean, the headline alone is just, it's enough to make you want to puke. So, the headline goes, Cops beat and kidnap 12-year-old girl in front of her home, claiming she was a prostitute. Cops beat and kidnapped 12-year-old girl in front of her home, claiming she was a prostitute. Now, we all know that freethoughtproject.com has a tendency to try to exaggerate their headlines and exaggerate their stories because they do have a very anti-cop bias. It's one thing the website is mainly about. However, I've researched this story on many other news websites, ABC News for one, CNN as well, and this is not an exaggeration. This is exactly what the police did. I'm going to read a little bit from the article here for you. Diamond Milburn, now 20 years old, was an honor student attending advanced classes at Austin Middle School when her life would be forever scarred by Galveston police. On the night of August 22, 2006, at 7:45 p.m., Emily Milburn was preparing her children for school the next day when a breaker broke, cutting off electricity to the family's home. Emily asked her daughter, Diamond, to go outside and hit the switch located downstairs and outside the house. When Diamond went outside the house toward the breaker box, a blue van drove up to the house, and 3 men jumped out and started attacking her. One of the men grabbed Diamond and said, "You're a prostitute, you're coming with me." Like anyone in their right mind would, Diamond resisted being pulled into the van with complete strangers. Diamond grabbed a tree and started yelling for her father. Officer David Rourke, I'm guessing that's how you say his last name, had his hand over the mouth of Milburn when her father came out on the balcony after hearing his daughter's cries for help. The other officers, Justin Popovich and Sean Stewart, beat Diamond's face, head, and throat while their supervisor, Sergeant Gilbert Gomez, watched on in approval. Diamond's parents approached the cops and said, "That's our daughter, she's 12. Rourke responded, "I don't care if she's 22, 32, or 46. The cops dragged Diamond into the van and threw. Obviously, they were now well aware that the kidnapping they had intended had gone wrong, so they decided to drop Diamond off at a hospital. The examining physician found that the girl had injuries from multiple blows to the head, face and neck, lower back, left shoulder, left hip, waist area. She had suffered a contusion to the back of her head where she was struck with a flashlight. These fucking assholes. Hit a 12-year-old with a flashlight. There were abrasions on her arm and wrist. Diamond's throat was swollen. She had difficulty swallowing, nausea and vomiting, and the hoarseness of voice due to being struck in the throat. She had black eyes, scalp lacerations, tenderness of the vertebrae, and was experiencing double vision and the loss of hearing. Diamond's eardrum and nose were also injured, blood in ear, bruised nasal septum, and a nosebleed. After the attack, Diamond suffered from PTSD, nightmares, and an inability to concentrate in school. My God. In a blatant disregard of logic and common sense, the court system in Galveston felt these charges were justified, and Milburn was actually charged with assault on an officer and tried twice. After 3 years and 2 mistrials, the district attorney finally dropped the case. The article goes on to detail that the family tried to counterclaim this and sue, and they still haven't reached a settlement, and that each of these assholes went on to get an Officer of the Year award. One of the reasons I got so mad at Mundane Matt for the comments he posted on my Ferguson videos and the indirect snide video response he fired my way is because people like him refuse to accept that things like this go on, and if things like this happen to somebody they care about, they're the kind of person that will wait till it's over to do anything. That is a very asshole-ish thing to say. I'm fully aware of that. But it doesn't make it any less true. You see, I get called an extremist because I would plug one of these motherfuckers for trying to do that to my daughter, trying to do that to my fiance, trying to do that to anyone in my family. I'd put him down. In this country, and I will post it in the description box, you actually have a right to defend yourself with deadly force if somebody is abusing their authority to an extent that threatens your life or the life of a loved one or a life of any private citizen. And to me, I mean, how as a police officer could you even fuck this up? How could you, in your right mind, unless you're an absolute psychotic that got into the profession because you're a total sociopath that knows how to play the system to your advantage, how in your right mind could you feel good about yourself beating a 12-year-old child with a flashlight? I mean, to that extent, you break a child's nose? I mean, that, you know, you break their nose, you put blood in their ear, for God's sake. You get that from a ruptured eardrum. They beat this kid so hard it broke her eardrum. She had blood in the ears. And I think the most disgusting thing is kind of the implication here. What it implies to me is that, these bastards have children of their own. And they don't treat their children like this. That they think that they're better than all of society, that their offspring are better than all of society. Your life means nothing to people like this than a reason to be given a paycheck. Your taxes supplement their salary. They don't really give a shit about your well-being. They don't give a shit about your personal safety, your security. Other than that, as long as they ensure you have your personal security, your taxes can give them the paycheck they need to put food on the table for themselves. The spoils of their labor can be the whip cracked against your back, basically. And I think that's disgusting. I mean, how can people like this think they're doing a service, really, for society that's beneficial when it includes beating a child with a flashlight because they think they're a prostitute? From the way this article describes the conditions these people live in and such, it sounds like they lived out on this side of the country. I don't know where Galveston is or Austin Middle School is. They don't list it in any of the articles. But I would presume, from how it's described, they lived in a house kind of like what you see out on this side of the country. You get a lot of houses that are two-story technically because they're built into kind of a berm. So your patio and stuff may be at ground level, but the rest of your house is kind of off the side of a hill a little bit. And that's why you have a lot of homes with basements out here, because your lower level is actually your basement. So this kid goes outside, walks down a little bit of a hill to get to the breaker box on the outside lower level of the home. I mean, for God's sake, at that point, these assholes had to have known when she left the house that this was a child. They had to have known that they had the wrong person. For you to be a police sergeant supervising an ambush like this, and I'm using the word ambush for a very particular reason, and I'll get into that in a moment, because it's almost a separate topic, but I'll get to that in a little bit. When you're supervising an ambush like this, how the hell, in good conscience, do you not tell your officers to stop what they are doing immediately? You have the wrong person. You're assaulting a child. How can you just stand there, idly by, probably having a child of your own, and not put yourself in the position of the parents who are watching your officers terrorize their kid? How are these men not in prison? Why is it that when things like this happen, the court system is always in favor of this? I don't know if it realizes, the judicial branch of government in this country realizes this, but we already know you're inefficient. For the last 100 or so years in this country, the people have known that you're a completely inefficient section of our government. You need absolute reconstruction, restructuring. You need complete reformation. Every single segment of this branch is completely out of control, totally corrupt. It needs restructuring on a massive level. Protecting these cops from legal prosecution isn't hiding that fact. It's telling it to everyone. We're massively corrupt. We don't care about the Constitution. We will violate your rights at any given time and ignore the fact that our Constitution states that they are rights, but instead we'll treat them like privileges that we can revoke at any given minute. Even your right to life. You know, and by the way, bringing it back to what I was mentioning earlier, the reason I used ambush in particular is there was recently a news story where this psychotic fuck decided up in Alaska to ambush two cops. They were just state troopers, minding their own, on their designated break, just shooting the shit with one another before they go back on the clock on their patrol, and they get wasted. And a lot of people would think that you're totally anti-cop, so why would you have a problem with this? I'm not totally anti-cop, and one thing I really don't like about the cop blocking movement is there are too many people in there that want to just cause a whole bunch of chaos. They don't want to start a movement that causes reformity, that causes the government to really look at the issue. That's what I'm for. Okay, that is definitely what I am for. I'm not for bring out your guns and shoot every cop you see. No. If they're trying to hurt your family, if they're beating the shit out of your wife with a flashlight and they don't care that they're breaking the law in your own home, I believe that you are in your own home. You have the right to do what needs to be done to protect your fucking family. Now, bringing it back on the subject I was talking about, these two guys, they get wasted by this complete psychopath for no good reason. They use the term ambush and they make this big overblown issue about how it was an ambush, yet what are no-knock raids? They're an ambush. It's an absolute, complete, world-devastating tragedy when essentially, fundamentally, the same thing happens to them that they do other people. That rationale doesn't make any sense to me. You don't own society. In real terms, guys like you barely have even a tiny bit of authority in it. You have a very minimal authority in it. I don't think people like this realize that within their own government that they swore an oath to uphold and protect, there are organizations that could wipe out these people, their identities, and every shred of evidence that they ever existed overnight. And they willingly uphold that and think that they have authority over something like that because they have authority over a very minimal amount of this country's society. I mean, that kind of is just superb arrogance. In my opinion, it's kind of the sliding scale a bit. You know, give these people give them the idea they really have a death grip on things, and give them the impression they really have control, or they could arrest the president if they wanted to, so that they just don't question anything. They don't realize that we're all pretty much fucked in this country, and a massive restructuring needs to happen. But anyway, that's what I'm for. And to bring this back to the original subject, bring this back to the news article, this comes in, this is like from 2006, but it's coming up on the heels here of the Daniel Watts news story. Now, if you don't know who that is, Danielle Watts was in the movie Django Unchained, which Quentin Tarantino put together, and she was detained by a cop because she kissed her boyfriend in public in their car. And apparently somebody had taken it upon themselves to call 911 and get the cops involved because they're that kind of asshole. The kind of oxygen thief that I feel doesn't deserve to be respected by anyone, because if you're abusing 911 like that just so you can wreck somebody's day, you kind of deserve a flashlight up your ass, in my opinion. And I don't mean just any regular flashlight. I mean a flashlight that's soaked in kerosene and then lit right up your ass. It'd teach you a lesson in humility in a fucking hurry. But they detained her, in my opinion, very unlawfully, and then humiliated her in public because she didn't want to show them ID. Because in a very legal context, she had no reason to show them her ID. A police officer cannot just come up to you and, finagle you to show them your ID. They can't do that. So she doesn't. At that point, they don't have a right to detain you, handcuff you, throw you in the back of a police car at all. They're breaking the damn law. And not only did they harass her, the guy does it. If you see the video, I'll link the video below as well. So in the description box, you'll get what I was talking about earlier, your legal right to defend yourself. You'll get that. And then below that, you'll get the link to the video that I'm discussing here now. In the video, this guy is such a tool. I mean, it's like these people, they don't even look at what they're doing. Like, you've handcuffed a person, and you're sitting there just leaning against a wall, not realizing you look like a pussy. You've got this skinny, smaller than you woman handcuffed, and you feel like, oh, she's a big threat, but you know what? I've got control of the situation. You look like a complete pussy. You're the kind of guy, whoever this officer is, I know this is ad homineming, but just fuck it, let me get it out of my system. This asshole, he's the kind of guy who's had a 1-inch dick his entire life, which is now probably just a penis head attached to a ball sack because he's been doing steroids, who got his ass kicked all throughout his entire life. All throughout all of his schooling, he was bullied up and down. This guy has complex issues out the ass. And now he's got a little bit of power in the world, and he wants to exude that on somebody so he can feel like a man. You're not a man. You're certainly no goddamn hero just because you're a police officer. You're a coward. The officers in the story about the 12-year-old getting beaten and kidnapped, you're not men. You're not courageous. You're not heroes. You're cowards and you're psychopaths. And I don't think that at any point in any of your careers have you ever done or will you ever do anything even remotely heroic or courageous at all. I think in the face of real danger, men like this will just tuck their tail in between their legs and run away and hide. When action needs to be taken, they will not take that action. They'll just run away and let somebody who actually has a pair of nuts, who is a man, who is an actual courageous human being, deal with it. So they don't have to, but they'll take the credit for it anyway. And it's just disgusting. So, all in all, a lot of people, they get so many misconceptions about what is my opinion on all this kind of thing. Am I one of these people that wants to do the pseudo-anarchist thing? And I want to get into a small tangent here. I now understand a little bit more about what people get uppity about me sort of misrepresenting what they feel anarchism as a movement really is. I would say the reason I feel the way I do on that is because you're choosing the wrong name for what you want. And essentially, I watched somebody's video on it, Anarchism Explained in 30 Seconds. And if you want, I'll link that below as well. I'll have a lot of links today. The guy, he goes off and he's trying to explain what, anarchism really is all about. And I'm still scratching my head like, how is this sustainable? So every 30 seconds you're going to have a riot. You're going to riot until the perfect system exists, and that's never going to happen. It can't. We didn't. I'm getting in so many tangents, but whatever. I guess a lot of you like when I do this, so whatever. I don't really have to stem the video down right now. I guess what people don't understand is you can't just create a utopia because we didn't develop civilization in a way that's possible. The truth of the matter is the road to peace is only through war. There's always going to be some asshole out there that's going to want to ruin your day. There's always going to be some psychopath in the world who's going to pull a 9/11. And it doesn't matter if it happens to this country. It doesn't matter if it happens in Europe or the Middle East or in Asia or Japan or Russia, wherever, China, wherever. It's an inevitability that the way we've structured our world, people will try to do things like this. There are always going to be people that are going to try to take advantage of other people in this world and make their lives a living hell. And we as a species have a duty to constantly keep trying to eliminate that threat. And I guess what a lot of these people presume is they presume that really the goal is to make the world perfect. Well, no, it's fucking not. You can't make the world perfect. A lot of people up front would presume, for example, given the topic we're discussing right now in the video, that the police's job is to try to make society perfect and get rid of all crime. No, it's not. It's to regulate the level of crime that happens. It's to try to control, monitor, and sort of reel back the level of crime that could be happening to a more sustainable amount. Because that makes more sense to do. People are always going to commit crimes. You can go on your local police department's website, if you have a police department website that keeps track of these things, we do out here, for bookings and crimes committed within the last 30 days. And you can look around your area of town, wherever you live in the country. And if you live outside of the United States, I'm sure that in your country, your police departments probably do this over the seas as well. And you would be amazed at the level of shit that actually goes down in this country. It's everything from, just people being drunk and disorderly in public to fucked up shit like murders and rapes and child molestation and all the other unholy fucked up shit that you don't even want to admit happens in this world. So a lot of people, they misconstrue the police as, well, they're not doing their job. Society isn't perfect. It isn't really their job to make society perfect. It's try to regulate it to be manageable and livable. Because there's just way too many people in this fucking planet now to just herd and cull into, some sort of collective hive mind where they all behave. That's, one, not worth living in and psychotic, and it's like a Brave New World status. And just, it's stupid. But anyway, people got really mad because they thought that, you're misrepresenting anarchism as just random chaos. It's not what well, yes, it is. It's what I glean from your position. You want to riot all the time in case the current system is inefficient, then you take it down and force it out of power. Eventually, that's just going to be the system, and that's not worth living in. Other people, they misconstrued my idea, of reformation of the judicial branch of government in this country, reformation of how we go about better enforcing law in this country and putting law into this country. They thought it was just, you want to just kill police, you want to do all this. No, you fucking idiots. I swear to God, people, it's like motherfuckers didn't even listen to anything I was saying. At all. I get up in arms when they take advantage of the level of corruption in order to enforce more corruption rather than regulate crime, rather than try to manage it, rather than try to control the amount and the level of it that happens to where you can manage it at a much more reasonable pace, to where we're not living in with just psychotic crime rates in this country. And I don't like when people shoot off to me statistics. Well, the crime rates are dropping. No, they're not. Every one of those statistics is manipulated. You know, I'm getting in so many tangents here. And people would ask me too, like, well, why do you think that those statistics would be manipulated? If you knew the extent of how bad things can get in this country from time to time, you wouldn't want to live here. It's within the nation's best interest to lie to its own people. I'm not trying to talk about conspiracies and shit here, but for reasons of national security, the government, for example, lied about Area 51 existing for decades, since the 1950s. So is it really that far out of the loop, or is it really that big of a stretch, that big of a long shot to assume that would lie to people about the amount of crime that happens? No. The government lies about everything. But anyway, I've gotten way off base here. I'm completely in another universe here. I'm going to bring this thing back. I was sick and tired of people misrepresenting what I was saying. That's why I got as pissed off as I did about Mundane Matt, who clearly didn't pay attention to any damn thing that I was saying. He clearly wasn't paying attention to any of that at all, and just wants to live in idealism, because for YouTubers like him, it's good for you to be an idealist. It's good for you to follow the popular opinion. 32,000 subscribers out of nowhere, that's from following the popular opinion. I'm not a drone. I come up with my own thoughts, observations, and reasonings on things. And I think that's why a lot of you watch this channel, because I don't just go and spout off what's popular that other people would be more willingly inclined to agree with, because that's bullshit. What is that? I mean, like, if I'm going to sit there and suck the teat of, popular opinion, then I might as well just fold up my YouTube channel and leave, because there's already millions of other people on this website that do this. And I have no interest in doing that. I have, no remote interest at all in just, everybody agrees with this. Well, what if they're all found out to be wrong? Then you got a lot of people who feel pretty fucking stupid for waving the sign of whatever it is that they were believing in and turned out to be wrong. And then you have a lot of people who were leading the charge on whatever that would be, that feel even dumber, that they have to admit to themselves, oh damn, I was a pretty big fucking charlatan and didn't even know. That's what started that whole feud. And as far as the news story is concerned that I was reading here, like I said, this is just, it's psycho. This is just psycho shit. You beating a 12-year-old and then walking away like, well, whatever, just drop her off at a hospital. It's disgusting. A serious reformity really needs to happen. A serious questioning, it really needs to be done by our government. We need to get senators who give a shit about this country in office so that they can ask the questions that need to be asked, make the changes that need to be made, and write bills that need to be written so that this shit stops happening. Or eventually, the scenario I really don't want to see going down will go down. And if that happens, I really, really wouldn't prefer to be stuck in the crosshairs of that. Stuck right in the crossfire of a literal another fucking civil war. So, anyway. I'm some guy on the internet, and so are you. And like I said, I hope you enjoy the calmer ranting style. It's easier to get ideas out. And I'm starting to enjoy it. Anyway, until next time, take it easy, ladies and gentlemen.